What's up? Chris here. Today we're going to go over something that everyone who wants a sport bike or owns a sport bike is interested in, and that is upgrades. How to make the bike handle better, how to make the bike faster, what you can do to the bike. Pretty much going mostly over sport bikes to make it better suit you, make it look better. Not really going for aesthetics here, but more functional upgrades is what I'm interested in. So the first thing that I would ever upgrade on a sport bike, as you can see here, I just put new tires on. I still got to get my front rim back on. The first thing I would upgrade on your sport bike is get good tires. If you buy a used bike with old tires, put good new tires on it. These are Dunlop Q3s. I'm a Dunlop fan. I've always used Dunlop or Michelin with a little bit of Bridgestone. And that's pretty much all I've ever used. Right now I'm using all Dunlop. So Dunlop Q3s are nice, good tires if you're interested in track days. You got the Dunlop Intex, which are also amazing tires. I don't sell tires for Dunlop, just giving you my opinion. So, tires, good tires. You want good tires on your bike. Almost all new sport bikes are going to come with good tires. So the next thing you need to look at is safety and handling and braking, not speed. You don't want to go for speed before you get your bike riding properly. If you have a bike that won't turn unless you're drag racing, the speed isn't going to do anything for you. So one of the cheapest first upgrades you can do to a sport bike are steel braided brake lines. Not only do these give you a tighter feel on the brakes, just squeeze my brake with the calipers off, don't do that. They're not just going to give you a tighter feel, but they're going to give you, if you can see here, these are steel braided, plastic coated, as opposed to a rubber brake line. We'll look at one over here that hasn't been upgraded. Actually, this one has steel braided as well. So a rubber brake line, when it gets too hot, if you're riding really hard and you're braking a lot, a rubber brake line can melt, can boil, the fluid can expand, and your brakes are going to stop working, and that's not something you want to happen. So I would go with a good steel braided brake line, a good brand. This is, I don't know what brand these are. I've always used Spieglers. They make great brands. I think Galfer have some great steel braided brake lines. You can do this upgrade for as low as 60 to 90 bucks. And if you find some used, which you might as well just get some new ones, but if you find some used ones, you can get them even cheaper than that. You can see here, Spiegler makes color brake lines. You can get the tips and the line, pretty much whichever color you want it from Spiegler. If you can order it through sportbiketrackgear.com is one good website. Motorcycle Superstore, they both have steel braided brake lines. So that is a very good upgrade you can do to any bike for safety and better braking. And the next thing we're going to go over is suspension. One of the best upgrades you can do, period, is the suspension. Before you get an exhaust, before you get a sprocket kit, before you get anything like that, I would go with some suspension upgrades. Suspension is not necessarily cheap. Now, you don't have to buy new suspension. You can also get your suspension set up. This is an Öhlins rear shock. They range anywhere from, I would say $500 to $600, all the way up to $2,000 plus. There's brands that are a little cheaper. There's Racetech, there's Elka, there's a lot of different brands. A rear shock on your bike is going to give you a much better feel and with many more adjusting capabilities. Before you spend $1,000 on a full exhaust, I would put a rear shock on your bike and keep the stock exhaust until you can save up a little more money, because the feel and the handling of your bike is what's going to be important when you try to go faster. Now we look at the front suspension. I wouldn't suggest going out and buying a brand new set of Öhlins forks because they're very expensive, but you can get, this is, you see the sticker here, Thermos Man is his name. He lives out in Woodstock, Georgia. I live in Georgia. I don't know if he's national, but there's plenty of different suspension companies. No matter where you live, there's always something around, unless you live out in the middle of nowhere. And then you can pack up your forks, ship them in a box, mail them, they'll fix them, they'll set them up for you. You tell them your weight, they'll get them where you need them and send them back, and you're good to go. So front suspension and rear suspension are right after the tires and the brake lines are what I would suggest doing. With the stock front suspension, this is a gsx-r 06 model, I believe. The internals, you can switch out internals, you can change the dampening, change the rebound, you can put aftermarket internals that are made specifically for going fast, for racing. So there's a lot of products out there. Just do your research. It's all over the internet. Maybe I'll have another video later about which front suspension to use, who can do it, where you can mail it to get it done. Depending on your bike, if you have something a little more basic, say this, it's in pieces right now, but this Aprilia RS125 over here, it's a pretty basic system. You have springs, oil, and the fork, and there's not much else in there. You can use emulators and aftermarket springs, Race Tech, Olin's, a lot of companies, Traction Dynamics, they make aftermarket springs you can put in the front of your bike to make it handle better. So that is a very good upgrade now. When you're done with the tires and suspensions and brakes, there's other things you can do. We'll go for comfort, for handling. The exhaust is always something. This bike, it's a little beat up, but if you can see, it has a full Leo vents on it. It's a race exhaust. Now when you want to get a full exhaust like this, something else you're going to have to look at is the tuning. You can't really just slap a full exhaust on any bike and have it good to go right off the bat. You're going to need something like a power commander. This is a power commander. It works on a lot of the newer bikes. If your bike's carbureted, you're going to have to go with a jet kit instead of a power commander. But with a power commander, you can put maps on it for the exhaust for the bike, or you can go to a shop and get a custom tune. I'm going to take the head strap off here for a second to try to make it get it a little closer. You can get a custom tune for your bike as well. And that costs, the power commander's around the $350 range, and a custom tune can be another $300-400 bucks even, but they have maps on their website that you can download for the exhaust that matches your bike. This bike also has an exhaust, full Akrapovic. It has it doesn't have a power commander, but it runs okay, so not every bike is going to need a power commander for a full exhaust. So now that we've done the exhaust, let's go on to comfort, riding position, things like that. Rear sets are a great way to change the position of your footing. If you're getting faster and you're dragging your foot on the ground, you're dragging your toes on the ground, first you need to focus on where to put your toes. You want to put the front ball of your foot on the end of the peg. And if you're still getting that lean angle enough to where you need your feet to come up a little more, the rear sets, you can see here, they're adjustable. There's many different positions you can put them in. I think this is a 8 spot position maybe, and you can move them around a little bit, up, down, left, right, get them where you want, get them where you need your feet to be, to where you can get that lean angle you need. And I wouldn't suggest getting rear sets right off the bat. See how you like your stock bike, and if you're having problems with it, then you can go for it. There's a lot of companies that make them, Vortex, Sato, Woodcraft. I wouldn't go with eBay, like Chinese bought brand, because when you wreck, it's one of the first things that hit the ground. And if you have Vortex rear sets, you can call Vortex and get any part you need as long as you're going to pay for it for your rear sets. If you have the Chinese version, you might not be able to find it. You might have to buy a whole new set. Here's another steel braided brake line on the rear here. Alright, another thing for riding style and position is I have a Ninja 250 here, are the clip-ons, which are where you hold your hand. So right here we have clip-ons. These are Woodcraft. The Ninja needs a little bit extra to get the clearance of the top. So these are Woodcraft clip-ons. They give you a more sporty feel, a more forward feel. Even on the very sporty bikes that don't have upward handlebars like this R6, you can put Vortex rear clip-ons on, and it's another great upgrade as well. Price range on the clip-ons for a whole set is going to be around $150 to $250 depending on the bike. While I'm with this bike, let's go ahead and do another upgrade. A steering stabilizer. If you're getting into track, you're going faster, you're getting really quick, Throwing down some good lap times, you know, up in the intermediate class, maybe, faster intermediate. Or even in novice, when you're learning to ride and learning to go fast, a steering stabilizer, which is this right here, the GPR steering stabilizer. It's mostly a safety device. Most racing organizations require steering stabilizers. If you've ever had a tank slapper going down the highway or on the racetrack where your handlebars start flapping back and forth like crazy and you think you're going to die, this is going to stop it. That's what that's for. It makes it harder to turn and you can adjust it. You won't really notice it when you're riding, but it's got some force behind it, so you can turn it up. It'll make it really hard to turn, but it's going to keep it from wobbling at full lean or slapping coming out of a turn. That is another. These run around $300 to $500 depending on the bike and the setup. There are also different kinds of steering stabilizers like Öhlins. I think Öhlins mostly makes bar steering stabilizers. I believe there's one on this bike. You can see it down there. It goes down on the forks, and that is also a good upgrade. Levers. That's another thing on this bike. These are ASV levers. They are claimed to be unbreakable. I've never broke a set. I've wrecked with the set many times. They're a little pricey, in the $200-something range. So that is another upgrade you can do. Chain and sprocket. If you want a little more acceleration, you can go with a little bit bigger sprocket in the back, a little smaller sprocket in the front. 525 kit, which is going to be you know, a little different size chain. You can get smaller chains, less unsprung weight is always good, so that's a good thing about these chain and sprocket kits. If you start doing track days a lot, you can have 5 different sprocket sets, switch them out depending on which track you go to get the right acceleration coming out of the corners on that track. And that's something that's really getting into it. But the aluminum sprockets do not last as long as the stock steel sprockets. Just a warning on that. So that's just a few upgrades I wanted to go over. Another thing here is quick shifter. You get an ignition module or an EM Pro, you can have a quick shifter, which makes you not need to clutch when upshifting, which is always fun. Here's another demonstration of a Vortex rear sets that moves your footing position. So that's just a few upgrades you can do to your bike. This bike really is almost stock. This is a Supermoto. It's carbureted and it has a jet kit. You can't get a power commander for it. This is a carbureted version. A jet kit is always good to tune your bike, especially if you get a new exhaust. This is the only carbureted bike I have other than the Ninja 250 over here, which also has a full exhaust, and I put a jet kit on it as well. So there's some other things you can do in the engine. You know, porting, polishing, Yoshimura cranks, the possibilities are endless to what you can do inside of your motorcycle engine almost. It just depends on how much money you want to spend. Working on an engine can get very, very expensive. Just a warning, if you want your bike to go faster and you want to do engine work to it, you're going to pay. So that's just a few things I wanted to go over. If I think of anything else, I'll throw them in the comments or put a video reply. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll get back to you. I'll try to answer everybody's comment if they have a question on where they can find something, what kind of upgrade they should buy. You know, I haven't tested everything, but I've had a lot of stuff. I've had a lot of bikes, and I'll help you out any way I can. So really appreciate you guys watching. Thanks, and see you next time.